So, Bernard wrote to me asking me a few questions about this Applied Neuroscience Masters at King's College London, so I'm making this video to respond. Now, I'm just going to skim through what the questions are generally, and we'll go into more detail when I answer them. His first question is about ECTS points. How many ECTS points does it have? The university is being very vague when he asks them. The second question is about lectures, workshops, and seminars. The third question is about meetings and what times of day are available. And the final question is about whether I think the MSc could allow him to get onto a PhD in experimental psychology or cognitive neuroscience later on. Is there enough research, skills, training, and methodology? He asks as part of the same question. So, with regards to ECTS points, the answer there, the short answer is I don't know. I actually don't even know what ECTS points are. And that shows you that I have very specific reasons why I want this master's. It's more for information and to get King's College on my degree. It is a selling point, to be fair, regardless of the way they behave. But a full written review as well as a video review will be available very soon. So check my description below, and when it's up, I'll have put that in there. I actually don't think it's a good course, and I'll get into details as to why. I like the subject of neuroscience. I just don't think it's worth the money that you're paying for. And the fact that they're being very vague in their answer. He says here, I've asked admissions office, but they didn't really give me a clear answer. And they just said that it's accepted as a master's degree outside of the UK. Now, Bernard needs this because he says he's probably going to work and pursue a PhD in the EU. And it's important that it's 120 ECTS like the other European masters. So I don't know what ECTS are. And like I said, it's not something that I need for what I'm using this master's for. But the fact that they're not answering your question and they're trying to deviate away is almost like turning defense into attack. And that makes me suspicious because they know what ECTS points are. And if they are not putting the time in to actually, well, if they're not answering your question, then it means that there's a problem there. So I can't answer the question, but I would suspect that they don't have it. To know for sure, there's one easy way of finding out. You send them an email, 4 sentences, yeah? Separate those sentences by paragraphs. Sentence 1, hi, well, apart from the hi, dear sir, whatever the hell. Sentence 1, I would like to know if this master's provides 120 ECTS points. Sentence 2, I have been told that it is still a master's degree outside of the UK, but this does not answer the question. Specify that you have a problem with their response in the same way I just said it, or similar. Next sentence, I would like to know if it provides 120 ECTS points or not. And either the same sentence or the next one, say, because if it does not, I will not be pursuing this master's. And if it does, I will be. I will be. So when you actually start putting money on the line, that's when they really start behaving. That's when they actually start thinking like a normal business person. And they have to answer your question because you're basically walking away from the table. And they will answer your question. Like, either that or they'll ignore you, in which case, well, why would you want to give them your money? I don't think they would ignore you. But if they don't answer your question properly, then just assume it doesn't give you what you want. Now, the second question, how do the lectures, workshops, and seminars work? Well, week 1 of the module, you get all the lectures released, so week 1 to week 5, and then week 6 is revision week, so there's no lectures there, but that's when you'll do your exam. The bulk of the work is in the essay, really. You can learn more about the essay in my review video and my written review. I think the essay is great. the essay system is great, but the problem with it is you don't really get as much support, and it's not that good. The support you get isn't good, and it's not because the people aren't good. It's just because the online system doesn't really work very well for something like that. And the people that support you are not people from neuroscience backgrounds. They're people from all other backgrounds. And it's like, I understand that they know how to structure an essay, but there are some very specific things in essays that require someone who knows about the subject to look at. And I was actually marked down on one of my essays on a specific bit that required a neuroscientist to take a look at. And when you get someone to take a look as well with the essay writing skills support, they only have 10 minutes. So all they can really do is look at one paragraph. So it's like you get one guy to look at one paragraph, then you get another guy to look at another paragraph, and then another guy to look at another paragraph, and they all have different styles. And all you really do is tell them your strategy, and they read one and think about your strategy, but they don't really... They do provide some support, and one of them was very, very good. But when I contacted another one, you don't get to choose who you get, by the way. The second one just was kind of crap. And I was just like, well, maybe I'm good in my essay then. And I only got 62%, and I really wanted 70 plus. So for me, that's a problem. But the lectures, though, they are recorded once, and they just recycle them. The modules work like a carousel system. So this module in May will come around 8 months later, and another set of students will watch the same lectures. Maybe they'll answer different questions or whatever, but generally speaking, you're just paying for the student support advisor to phone you here and there and ask you how all is going and maybe find some information out for you. And then you're also paying for someone to read your essay and mark your essay, and they also look at your essay plan, which is due in like I think the second week or the third week. You don't have to provide that, but it's much better to do that in my experience, especially if you're not from an academic background. Workshops, we don't have any. Seminars, we don't have any. We do have the occasional webinar set up by one of the students who gets some interesting speakers on, but in 3 modules, I believe we only had like one webinar. I think there was a second one, but I didn't go to that second one. First one was very good. It was a 2-day event, but the second one wasn't. I don't think it was a 2-day event. It was just a one-off webinar. But yeah, in the webinar, there were some interesting speakers. One of them was a psychedelics researcher in the University of Alabama. He was very interesting, talking about using psychedelics to cure cocaine addiction from one dose. These were people living on park benches as well. But generally speaking, that's not a selling point for the university. That's something that you could probably really find yourself. You are paying 18 grand for this if you're buying from England anyway. I don't know what the prices are for the other nations. So generally speaking, no seminars, but the occasional webinar. Workshops, we don't have any workshops, but we have an online forum where you answer a question every week. For each week, they'll ask a question in relation to the lectures of that week. And what will happen is you will write your response, and it's marked, but you don't get marked on the content. It's a participation mark. So you just have to answer the question to the best of your knowledge, and whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. You'll get the marks. So you have to answer that every week, and as long as you do it every week, you get 10% of the mark, and that's what all of them add up to, equate to 10% of the module. I don't know what would happen if you missed 1 week, but I've never done that. So just don't do that. It's very easy to do in terms of just answering the question. You have to do a little bit of research for it, but generally speaking, it's a maximum of 300 words, and you're expected to kind of provide 1 or 2 references. But you can just answer the question to the best of your knowledge, I believe, and you'll still get the marks. So it's totally up to you. But it's good to do some research, because your teaching fellow who looks at that and responds will respond with like further reading or advice on a book or whatever. So, and you can see everyone else's responses. I don't really read everyone else's, to be perfectly honest, but it's more of a chore, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I don't really like the system, but it's 3 marks, so that's the way I see it. And I don't like looking at things that way. With regards to essays, I don't just see it as something to pass an assignment. It's like your passport to think. You get to organize your thoughts, do the research to organize those thoughts accordingly, and that's why those are so powerful if you do them that way. That's Jordan Peterson I'm referencing. He's the one person I learned that idea from. How often are meetings and what times of day? I'm doing another part-time master's in applied social psychology, and I have a bunch of free time, and it would be cool to know before I apply so I don't have a bunch of collisions later on. So they're pretty flexible on meetings. You'll get, I think week 1 you get what's called a coffee break, where you meet the other 20 people on your course if they turn up to the meeting. Generally speaking, it's anywhere between 1 being you the only person and 7-ish people would turn up, and the teaching fellow would always turn up. So when I say 1, it would be a minimum of 2 of you. You just could talk to your teaching fellow and get some advice and information from them. Generally speaking, those are kind of crap. You don't really learn anything, and they're not very good in terms of social stuff. They're not very good socially, because it's like one person talking and everyone listening, and then the next person says their bit, and then someone chimes in, and the lecturer or the teaching fellow responds, and it's kind of inorganic. It's not like a real social interaction. It's kind of crap, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Then the following week you'll get a meeting slot that you can book in with your teaching fellow, and they will go through some stuff that you maybe wanted to know with regards to your essay, questions about the course or whatever, anything you want with regards to actual neuroscience. And then the cycle begins again. The coffee break, coffee morning is the next week, and then the week after that you get slots. So with the actual meetings, you get slots anywhere throughout the day. They tell you what times are available, and you try and work it out. But with the coffee break, you'll get 1 in the morning at say 9 or 10, and another one in the evening at like 5 or 6. This is UK time. But generally speaking, with me, I got to, if I wanted a meeting with someone, I would just ask when they're next available, and they will tell me in a day or 2 or maybe tomorrow, and they'll give you a time, and you just say yes or no. So they don't really always stick to that specific day for meetings, which is important, because I'm not going to wait. Well, I don't really want to wait until the next week to ask something I want to know now. Sometimes they can just respond directly on the email with your concerns. They're pretty good like that, pretty fast. So generally speaking, you should be good. Considering you live in Europe, you'll be able to arrange a time, and you're already studying something else part-time, so I assume you have time. Because you have time to do this as well, you should be good on the times of day. Your final question is whether I think... Let me read it directly. He says, my final question is whether you think this MSc would allow me to get into a PhD in experimental psychology or cognitive neuroscience later on. Is there enough research, skills, training, and methodology? I have access to research labs here where I study part-time, so I can get hands-on experience. Again, I don't know. I'm not really liking the way this course is run. I don't think it's good value for money. I'm going to do it anyway because I want the knowledge, and at the end of the day, regardless of what I think, King's College is a very good university, as much as it pains me to say right now, because I don't like the way they deal with things. I think that we'll get into that in the review, so you can go watch that one. I don't want to make this too long and too negative, but the fact that they can't answer these questions honestly, and not honestly, but like directly, and you could say honestly, by being indirect, you're kind of being dishonest in your own way. You just don't want to answer the question. That concerns me, because it's like, this thing is new. This online MSc system is new. We don't know how good it is, and the other universities don't know how good it is, which is why they're waiting to see the quality of the people that come out of there, waiting to see other people accredit these courses, and that's why they're not as open to accepting this online MSc. Now, I do believe you could get a PhD at King's, but you'd have to do that in person, I reckon. I don't know, maybe they'll manage to get that online as well eventually. But I don't know about other universities, and I wouldn't trust King's if you were to ask them, because they'll just like the ECTS question, they won't give you a proper answer. The only way to find out is by actually contacting other universities that provide PhDs in experimental psychology and cognitive neuroscience. Maybe email them or whatever. Just copy and paste the same email. Should be all right. Just keep asking and one of them will bite. Ask them about this specific issue. And the reason I say ask multiple, because some of them might ignore you because they have to go in and read about this and they might not know. That's the only real way, by finding out from the universities offering the PhDs. But I wouldn't risk it. Let's put it that way. If you don't get an answer from them and these guys are not very clear with you, then I wouldn't risk it if what you really want to do is a PhD, because you don't want to be in a situation where you've done this master's for 2 years and then you've got the grades to get into a very good university to do a PhD, but they don't accept your degree, and then you have to go and sit another course or a whole master's. You don't want that situation, because that's silly, really. And I think that this is what's annoying me right now, because they know that and they make a lot of money. They've actually provided a more scalable business model with this online MSc program. They pay a lot less for it because they're not paying the lecturers to do all the lectures. You're just sitting and playing. All they have to do is pay for the hosting system, which is way cheaper. And they're not even having to pay for you accessing the university. So you are like worth nothing. All you are is a guy that is getting his essay marked, but you're still paying 1,500 per module and 18,000 altogether, meaning that they should be answering your questions properly, because this is a huge investment and they're making a lot more money from you by price as well as by margin. So for you specifically, listen, I was going to say I would say no, don't do it. But in fact, I would say that, yeah, based on what you've said here. But if there's something that you haven't said, or that there's another reason why you might want it, maybe it's still worth your time. But based on these questions you asked me, I'd say be very careful. I wouldn't say no completely, but I'd say just no completely based on this. But I wouldn't say a complete no, because there may be some factors that I'm not thinking about that maybe you haven't said. Last question, actually, you asked, is there enough research, skills, training, and methodology as part of this same final question? I would say I don't know about that one either, because I haven't done the research modules. So I haven't done the master's modules, which come at the end. And then your final grade is an average of all of these modules. So I don't know, but like I said, because they're being very protective about this ECTS thing, I would be very suspicious. And because they're protective about other things, like, I don't know if I said it in this cut, but I did ask them when they called me to congratulate me for getting onto the course. They said, you got in out of 866 people or whatever the number was. And I said, oh yeah, great, fantastic. But how many people did you accept? And he didn't have an answer. I think he knew the answer, he just didn't want to say. And so I said, all right, look, could you find out for me? And then he didn't find out. He called me to take the payment, and I said, look, did you find out about that? And he's like, no, sorry, I couldn't find that. I'll find out in the future or something. I don't know. He said something along those lines. I didn't really care. I wanted to know, but I was going to do it anyway. So I was like, all right, fine. I'll find out when I start. I start the course, and again, I try and ask my student advisor, and she says she'll find out, but she didn't get back to me. And then I realized that these guys are being very, very secretive on the number of people that they're subscribing, because I think they're oversubscribing. They're taking in huge bulk loads of people because it's making them a lot of money, but they're not providing a good service in return. And you can find out why in my review. And it's nothing against any of the advisors or any of the people I work with directly. It's the university. The system that they've provided for this online thing is just crap. Like, you're not getting the same value as someone who is attending university, but you're paying more money than them, even though you get less of a product than they are getting. And then what you get isn't even as good as theirs, because their degree will take them further than you because of all of these things that you've talked about, the ECTS and the accreditation by associations of neuroscience and psychology. And then you're paying more than they are, because an actual in-person master's is 13,500 in for neuroscience at King's, whereas this online master's is what, 18,000 for 2 years. So it even takes longer as well. So yeah, I would advise, I would proceed with caution. Let's just put it that way. I might complete it. My other option is earning enough money so that I can spend a whole year at maybe Oxford, hopefully, studying neuroscience. But that would be next September's intake. But if I can't do that, then I'm going to finish this, because there's no other alternative on the market. Something that really needs to be addressed. Someone else needs to come up with a neuroscience module online, so that these guys are forced to actually improve the service, because that's how capitalism works. They need competition in order to improve their product, so to speak. Anyway, I hope that's helped you. Look out for those other videos and reviews in the future. Done.